You know, this would be like having something like Boruto, right? Say Naruto doesn't exist yet. Starting with Boruto and then seeing his dad and like, oh man, this Naruto guy, he deserves his own series. Starting away from the original story, the beginning, it's kind of stupid. Uh, Especially for a series like God of War. So, God of War series from Amazon Prime faces controversy. Series may skip over Kratos' story in ancient Greece. You know, the reason he does everything he's done. Yeah, they're just gonna skip over. They don't want because it's offensive to people. Oh, he's a toxic white male. The whole reason what he does, the reason why he's gotten to the point he's at now, is because of what he did. Because of what he's done through that whole Greece, uh, you know, journey. You know, slaying his, killing his wife and child, being destroyed and devastated at that, wanting to hunt down the gods, killing every single one of them, not just the gods, but the Titans, and then we have him in, you know, dealing with the Norse mythology, and, he's got his son, and he's kind of settling down a little bit, kind of the way he was before he decided to become a god of war and a god slayer. But starting him at this point, again, it's like, oh hey, wow, this Naruto guy is really cool. I wish he had his own anime. I don't know why you would start like his whole character is because of the stuff in Greece. I don't know why you would set it anywhere other than Greece at first. I don't understand why. The God of War series for Amazon Prime, adapted from the iconic video game, has been met with both excitement and skepticism from fans. While most are eager to see Kratos' journey brought to life, recent developments have raised concern about the show's direction, a creative team shakeup. Originally, the series was helmed by showrunner Rafe Judkins, who had previously headed Amazon's The Wheel of Time atrocity. Well, that sounds promising. The executive producers for the God of War series were, at the time, Hawk Otsby and Mark Fergus, who previously worked together on Iron Man and Children of Men. They like working on movies that have man or men in them. The latter of which earned them nominations for the Academy Award for Best Adapted Screenplay. According to IGN, their scripts had reportedly been well received by Amazon and Sony Pictures. However, towards the end of 2024, both showrunners and executive producers were removed from the project. Supposedly, the studios opted for new creative direction, leading to a complete reset of the writer's room. While this type of restructuring isn't unheard of in Hollywood, it sparked concern about the show's stability. With the project basically starting from scratch, fans worry about potential delays. I really don't think people worry about delays. I don't think really anyone gives a crap about delays. And whether the final product will align with the original. Spoiler alert, it's not. When do these things ever stick to the lore? When do these things ever respect the original's work? There you go. There's your answer. The original vision and the game. Ronald D. Moore takes the helm. Following the departure of Judkins and his team, Amazon appointed Ronald D. Moore as the new showrunner, writer, and executive producer. He's also going to be working the camera. He's going to be the best boy. He's going to do lighting. I mean, the guy's just going to do it all. He's going to do it all. In fact, apart from Kratos, the Kratos actor, he's going to be portraying every single other role. The guy's just doing everything. Moore is best known for his work on Battlestar Galactica, Outlander, and For All Mankind. A resume that suggests that he has experience to handle an epic character-driven adaptation. However, some fans are concerned about his ability to adapt and capture the essence of God of War. In a past interview, Moore admitted that he isn't a gamer and finds video game controls challenging. While this doesn't necessarily mean he can't adapt the story, it's led to skepticism about whether he understands the nuances of the God of War franchise. Some people believe that the deep familiarity with the source material is crucial to successful adaptation. Yeah, I mean, God, like freaking Kratos' story, like his is a story of redemption, of coming to peace with oneself. I'm like, again, the dude slaughters his family, his he kills his wife and child, and you see the transfer, like you see the physical transfer. They let you know, just by the way his with the ash and all that. Um, but you see his story go from this enraged, angry, hateful being to who was like, I'm gonna kill the gods, and that was his goal, that was his purpose, that he wanted to make sure every single god was dead. To like in the now we have like Ragnarok, and with Norse mythology, you have him settle down. He's got a son. He can't be that raging, furious beast anymore. He has to act like a father again, which he hasn't done in however long it's been between the first the first game, and the new ones. I think it's what, a couple thousand years, because I mean the guy's a god, so he's not gonna die, unless another god slays him. But he's had this long life where he's been by himself, filled with hatred and rage, and now he has a son, and he has to be fatherly again, which is still going to be different because he had a daughter. So obviously you got it's daddy's little princess, you're going to act a little different. Now he's got a boy, and he can raise that boy to be a man. So obviously he's going to have a little bit more tough love towards the kid, but he does love his son. So the story of from the start to where we are now, it needs to be shown the respect it deserves, because it's a great story, and Kratos is a great character. And like I do think he looks way better with I might be a little biased, but I love the way he looks with the facial hair going on. He looks like a war vet, a guy who's seen everything. But it also gives him, like when he's with his son, it gives him more of a softness. It gives his eyes more of softness, and it makes him look more human, not this raging god of war. It makes him look human, since he was human. He was just a guy living in Greece with his wife and child. But said I'm a little biased, just a little. But the story choice dividing fans. Another major controversy stems from the show's narrative focus. According to the news outlet Dexerto, the series will jump straight into God of War Ragnarok storyline, which takes heavy inspiration from Norse mythology. In other words, it seems that there will be no ancient Greek elements. Be little to no ancient Greek elements. Boy. Oh, we don't want to keep doing that. I've been doing that a lot. I mean, I have to put it out here so that way, you know. But while the 2018 game was a massive success, introduced Kratos to the new generation of fans, some longtime players have expressed skipping the Greek mythology origins also meant skipping over the crucial exactly the ghost of Sparta. Like that's what he was. Kratos' journey from a vengeful Spartan warrior to a grieving, reluctant father. Exactly. And when I said he was just a guy in Greece, I don't actually mean just like some random guy. But he wasn't a god. That's what I mean. He wasn't a god. It's not like he is now. I mean, you kind of was, but As I was saying, I was also wanted to bring up the original Kratos, just to remind everyone what he looked like. Like the Blades of Chaos. Yeah, he's a demigod, so not full on god. Um, but of course he doesn't know this. But he was living his life in Greece as a Spartan, and he's kind of tricked by Ares to kill his family. And then he kills Ares and becomes the god of war. And then his next idea is like, oh, maybe I should kill Zeus. He is the leader of the pantheon after all. He's the one who tells everyone what to do. So let me just slash my way through ancient Greece and kill anything that comes in my way. Whether it be Poseidon, Hades, Helios, Gaia, Kronos, Kronos, who is like the swallow the stone of Omphalos, and like created the center of the universe, like that Kronos. Yeah, he kills everything. Everything just dies. If it comes across Kratos, it dies. There's if you're a god back then, you're not surviving. But yeah, the vengeful Spartan warrior to a grieving, reluctant father, and that was his story. That's his journey, becoming the ghost, going from the ghost of Sparta to this father who has a reason to just chill now. Like now when he does things, it's to protect his son. Now he's being the protective father, not a vengeful, hate-filled being. He's being the father. While yes, he wants his son to do things on his own, he's obviously thinking of, yeah, I've had a child before and I'm not messing it up this time. I want my son to be raised to fight on his own, to take care of himself, to be able to defend himself, because his son is also demigod. So, but Kratos' backstory is the most important part of him. It's the reason he does what he does. It's the reason why we got to the whole Norse mythology in the first place. Kratos' journey from a vengeful Spartan warrior to a grieving, reluctant father is what fans found so compelling about him. By foregoing his backstory, critics and fans argue that the series risks losing emotional depth that defines God of War. Exactly. Discussions on social media reflect this divide. Some fans appreciate that the series will focus on the more grounded, emotionally driven Kratos of the Norse saga. Others believe that skipping his brutal past removes essential context. Video game adaptations have historically been hit or miss. I guess they never miss, huh? I'll see myself out. With God of War, Amazon has the opportunity to bring one of gaming's most beloved franchises to life, but only if handled with care. Sometimes Kratos doesn't like when you get a little rough. Sometimes it needs to be handled with care. With a complete creative reset, a showrunner unfamiliar with the source material, and a divisive storytelling choice, fans have every right and reason to be wary. However, if Moore and his team can capture the heart of Kratos' journey while delivering the epic scale that the series deserves, God of War could be a decent adaptation. Until then, fans should, as always, hope for the best and expect the worst. And that's what we always do. So that way, when the worst actually arrives, we're not as disappointed. For me, they can put the setting in space with Kratos fighting pink aliens. Either way, I'll skip it. Amazon is pretty infamous for inserting diversity and LGBT propaganda in their shows. I'm not at all surprised they would skip the real God of War story, the Greek saga, and move straight to the cuck subversion. I mean, I wouldn't say cucked, but it is the more softer side of Kratos. And again, I don't mind that. Because again, he was a father to begin with. he was the way we see him now is pretty much what he was before he became the ghost of Sparta. He was a father. He had a wife. So he's just kind of now settling back into the role that he had before he had to murder his fucking family. So I don't mind seeing the softer side of Kratos, because while he is softer and not filled with hatred anymore, he's still being the protective father. So we still get to see him kill shit. So I don't mind seeing this side of him. I like seeing this side of him. Seeing him regain what he lost however many thousands of years ago, or however this long the span of time's been. You know, to see him regain that in some form with a son who cares about him and he can look to and protect. And you know, you wanted to, you know, it's one of those things, even though it's not what you were, it's not one of those things you were rooting for, but you want to see Kratos happy after dealing with the crap he's had to deal with in his life. You want him happy. And with the whole Norse mythology part of it, you get to see him finally slowly start to regain some of that. You know, he might be a little stoic. He might be a little, you know, boy. But it's obvious he cares and loves his son. So that's what we want. We want him to find a reason to not be angry anymore. We want him to, if he's going to kill something, it shouldn't be out of anger. It should be to protect his son, who he is also training to protect himself. Because Kratos knows he's not always going to be around. Kratos knows he's not going to be able to defend his son 24/7. Kratos knows that eventually his son's going to get to an age and just do his own thing. And he wants to make sure his son is ready to face whatever challenges come at him. But given whose blood is coursing through the boy's veins, he should be fine. He should be fine with some proper training, a clear head, not to let emotions get in the way. So I like the story of where Kratos is now. I do. So to say he's cucked, no, he's a father again. He was a father to begin with. Tell me you don't know the story without telling me you don't know the story. It just doesn't make sense. How do you sell people on a show about a Spartan guy fighting Norse gods without a huge chunk of context? It's not Star Wars Episode 4. Yeah. Yeah, I hate when movies and games and whatever do that. They start you like, it's like One Punch Man. It's like everyone starts, it's like, oh, it's a gag character. No, they've basically just started Saitama at the end of his journey, where he's already reached the pinnacle of his strength. So the whole point is like he can beat everything in one punch because he's gotten to a point where he's so powerful that he can do it. But then they're going to slowly introduce characters who he can't beat in one punch, and he's going to struggle. But they've already started him at the point where he's at his strongest. So everything else that comes to get him, it's a joke to him. You know, there was no journey. We didn't see his journey. We didn't follow him for episodes, watching him train and his story. No, they just like, here you go. Here's Saitama. He can beat everything in one punch. So you have this guy who is obscenely powerful at this point, who the dude could probably punch the earth and crack it in half if he wants to several times over. And you're just plopping him in there, and it's like, oh, here you go, guys. Here's Kratos. It's like, wow, what's his story? Well, wouldn't it be nice to find out? Wouldn't it be nice to see him at the beginning of his journey rather than this saga that takes place after his original? So yeah, I don't like the fact that they might be doing that. Hopefully they don't. But if they do, yeah. It's not gonna be great for them. It's not gonna be great. But yeah, to say Kratos is cucked, he's not. This guy is still ripping heads off. He's still ripping people in half and burying his axe or whatever else he can find into to gods and demigods and demons and this and that. It's just, he's doing it to protect his son now. He has a son. Again, people seem to forget that he had a wife and child in the original, the Greek series, the Greek saga. So he's just back to being a protective father rather than being this being full of hatred. So I can't stand when people say, "Oh, he's been cucked." No, he hasn't. No, he hasn't. But anyway, that's gonna do it for me. You guys know the drill. I'll see you guys later. Bye, guys.